Jonesy know what it's all about. From burnouts and doubts to boundaries that stick. We're right here with you through thick and thick. Do what you want because you're grown. You don't need to hustle all on your own. With that voice in your ear when it all goes whack. Take a deep breath, we got your back.
To find your
So
stuff.
like books like this, people don't realize, and even like self-help, like business books, some of the books I don't feel like are meant to be like fully read. Because like, I don't know, like you ever read like 7 Habits of the Highly Successful People?
Yeah.
It's hard for me to sit and read it,
The
but I
whole-
can go
Yep.
back and like pick out the spots that are like for me.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I'm not alone in that. And this is now
Yes.
our cold open, is talking about
Oh,
how
great.
we read
Yes.
various books. It's fast. I love when I find out that like I'm not alone in some quirk,
Yeah.
which is that. I also read magazines from back to front.
I read the end, so I'll read the first portion of a book and then read the ending of a book. So like any of the, like if it's a mystery especially, I'm like, I need to know what the ending is, and there's research on that actually people who read the ends of books first
Understand it more.
Yes, because you slow down and you absorb and actually comprehend, because you're not racing to find out, well, who did it? And now you're like picking up pieces of the plot. And I was like, oh, reinforce my behavior.
I guess
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's
Like,
almost like a
Game of
reverse
Thrones,
whodunit.
like when I watched it through the first time, I don't feel like I truly understood it until I went back and rewatched, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, this stuff makes actual sense.
And there are certain movies, like, you know, The Sixth Sense and things like that, where you want to go back and you're like, wait, I missed all of these clues the whole time that, sorry, spoiler alert, that he was dead.
He was dead.
Spoiler for like 25 years
Yeah.
ago.
But they played that so good.
Yeah.
That's actually an
great.
in-joke in our families, because my mother ruined that for my sister at some point. And we still, like, anytime that comes up, spoiler alert, thanks, Mom. Anyway, welcome back to another
Dead people.
riveting episode of Minding Our Business with our guest today is Dr. Julie Radico. And I'm going to need you to tell your backstory. We met through the Lower Bucks Chamber of Commerce at the Boss Roundtable, which is the business owners, something in strategies and support. Just a cool, like, little mini mastermind group. So I know who you are, what you do, but I don't remember facts. So we'll need you to tell the audience who you are, what you do, and who you like to help.
Yeah, happy to. So I'm Julie Radico. I am a doctor of psychology, and I do coaching, therapy, and speaking and writing. So my big mission in my work is to help demystify jargony types of things. So you go to grad school for a really long time to learn a whole bunch of jargon. So I could say, you know, somebody who's having a hard time, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're displaying emotional dysregulation. What does that even mean to the average person? My whole mission is to, through my speaking, through my writing, through my work, like coaching, therapy, to help go, well, what that really means is they're saying that sometimes your emotions are hard to manage. And when that comes up for you, here are some like concrete evidence-based things to do. Like you might take a deep breath, you might breathe, do some box breathing, or, you know, like rather than being like, oh, you need some emotional regulation strategies to help like soothe your system. Like what does that even
It's
mean?
meaningless to a patient or somebody experiencing
exactly.
it. I'm like, that all sounds good, but what does that mean?
How do you apply that?
Yeah. That's so is that an uncommon type of way to go about things in your field?
It's so I worked in family medicine for a decade. So I worked in primary care clinics and hospital settings, and I sat in rooms with brilliant people who spoke a ton of jargon. And I realized very quickly that I had my own jargon from like psychology world, and they had their medical jargon. And the mission that I have is kind of through that my job for 10 years was to teach medical residents how to not use any of that medical jargon. So like I would sit in like the call room where they were talking about patients to try to come up with what's the plan? How are we going to help this person? And literally there were times where I'm like, okay, BKA, I don't know what that means. This, I don't know what that means. Like I was like figuring it out before I learned the language, and I'm like, oh, right, okay, now I get it. And we got to not say any of that stuff to people. You might like name it once.
Yeah.
You might say it like, so a good example is people who are dealing with diabetes, like they need to get their A1C checked regularly. And A1C is your average of blood sugar over the past 3 months. And so you might want to say that once and explain that once, and then really try not to use that jargon unless that person is going to be living it all day, every day. And they're like, yeah, I know the jargon. I know my A1C. But otherwise, that means nothing to anybody.
Yeah.
Like if you're just like, yeah, your hemoglobin A1C is that. I'm like, all right. Y'all, we can't say that.
This is not even the discussion I thought we were going to have, and now I'm passionate behind it because every industry with professionals, they get into that like echo chamber and ecosystem of talking in jargon. And I feel like you're one who breaks that as well by just explaining to people in a normal way how a real estate transaction is going to go.
Yeah.
Like even me, and I break everything down because I see it through the eyes of a marketer, and my positioning is like, I want all consumers to have the best product and service delivered to them. So like when I bought a property a couple years ago, you know, the agent's just throwing this terminology at me, like, I get it, but like, I can't believe somebody who's a first-time home buyer would even, like, what does pool title mean? Like, that means nothing to anybody who doesn't do it day in and day out.
Yep.
No, it means you're going to literally go to records, to an abstract company to purchase a title, which will show all the records and transactions and if there's any liens against it, whatever. But yeah, just give them this and pull title. What the hell does that mean? Here's your HUD. What the hell does that mean?
I think what it is that what's really tough is you can sit with somebody, go through guides and explain it. I fully believe that no one's going to understand it until we're going through it in the transaction. I can tell you how inspections are going to feel. I can tell you. I feel like even if I have a consult with someone, the same questions still come because it's just until we're doing it, it's just.
But then you have the ability to create a narrative with analogies, like the one that I use in marketing. Like I'll talk about, we're going to do segmented layered retargeting on multi-platforms for omnipresent. The fuck does that mean?
That was
means
loud.
when you look something up, and now you see 55,000 ads for it a minute later, that's my asshole, marketing doing that. That's all. I use an analogy like that.
Yeah.
When you see it and now you're seeing it on your feed, that's retargeting. Boom. Easy as that.
Yeah. I resonate with this so much in multiple ways. One is coming up with analogies. I love to use analogies in my coaching, in my therapy, and teaching because people resonate with stories and people resonate with like, what does that actually mean? What are you actually talking about? And then to what you were saying, like, repeating things, like applying the information. Like sometimes I will literally say to people who specialize in other areas, I'm like, dumb it down for me. Like that's kind of like my non-fancy way of thinking about what I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, because that's how I talk to myself. I'm like, okay, I'm dumbing it down for me. Like tell me what does this mean? And the other part of that is like, I want somebody to walk me through it and I want them to like really explain it, give me examples, like repeat it a couple times. And then I want to be able to, this is actually a technique called teach back. I want to be able to say it back to you and go, okay, so what I think I heard you just explain to me was that this is going to happen and this is going to happen and this, and then you can like correct me in pieces. Like that's a technique that we use in like medicine or therapy so that we know that the client's really like absorbing the information. But I do that all the time with like, pick a thing, like you call your insurance company and I'm like, okay, wait, so what you're telling me is going to happen is this, and this. And they're like, oh yeah, but no, this part. I'm like, great.
That would get rid of so many conflicts, so much misambiguation, so many misunderstandings.
Insurance company's the worst. I was on the phone, she's telling me deductible, this. I'm like, listen, you gotta hit me with like, is my shit covered or not? And like, I don't really need to know the basics behind it. Just tell me if it's covered or not covered.
Well, any type of industry that's got underwriters and risk management is going to purposely muddy those waters. But also that is your defense is to now repeat back and break it down or force them to say it.
I love teach back. I literally do it all the time. I encourage people to do that because it helps in so many ways. You're putting it in words that make sense to you. You're slowing it down. You're giving them permission to correct you. And it doesn't feel, because sometimes people are like, oh, he's not really getting it, but I don't want to be rude. And it's like, no, I am purposely making this space where you are getting permission to explain to me that I missed something, where you're like, oh, Julie, so close, but like this is you're almost there, you missed this layer. And I'm like, great, I let you do that. I wanted you to do that because I do want you to do that, but I don't want you to like feel uncomfortable or fall into the traps.
I'm using this technique starting today. So here's what I'm going to do, and correct me if I'm wrong. But as somebody is explaining something to me, I'm going to repeat that process back to them as though I understand it, and ask them if there's any gaps or if this is correct.
You got it.
And that just happened. That's meta, people.
Yeah. Great.
Now, I know that you're a doctor of psychology and you're also an author of You Will Get Through This. So we'll share this. So what else do you do? Do you have a private practice? Do you work still in like hospitals? What do you do now?
Yeah, it's a great question. I, all of the above, though from afar. So I do telehealth work. So I have a private practice where I see mostly professional women for therapy or coaching. I work virtually for an EAP, like an employee assistance program for people who work in medicine. So I work with residents, nurses, physicians. I also do consulting where I am still working in hospital systems with residencies to help educate them and give them feedback when they're interacting with their patients. And then I do speaking, and that's one of the things that I love to do is to like come speak with groups to demystify, to like undercomplicate, and that's so I have a YouTube channel as well with a really great colleague, Dr. Gideon, another psychologist and coach, and we talk about how can we take really complicated topics and distill them into 10-15 minute videos to undercomplicate them. So the other thing I'll say is with this book that I co-authored, You Will Get Through This, two amazing co-authors, Charity O'Reilly, Dr. Nicole Halverson, amazing individuals. I had such a great experience working with this publisher, and the publisher actually asked me to write another book, so that'll come out in August of 2026.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yep, that's it.
Understanding and navigating anger. So it'll be another like bite-sized kind of book of. It'll be easy to read. I'm calling it like a pocket-sized book because it will be like this kind of like mini book that you could read, in an hour. Yes, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm losing my cool. What can I do right now? And you'll just have a whole 50 pages of suggestions that are research-based that go, okay, this is actually what helps. So like a little teaser is that venting does not help. So
interesting.
People are like, oh, I want to go to a rage room. I want to smash things. It's like, well, what we know from research is that you're actually continuing the cycle of anger. So there was a really great researcher. She talked about, and her name's escaping me, so it'll be in the book. But she talked about like this 90-second cycle where your anger only really lasts 90 seconds naturally. Like when the chemicals shoot out in your brain, they only are floating there for 90 seconds. So if you can let that pass and kind of like reduce that anger and shift your attention, then you're not restarting the cycle. But what we tend to do is we stay in that anger and we like ruminate on it.
And does it mean it re-releases that compound?
It kind of,
Okay.
You're restarting this cycle. And so the rage rooms, the venting, that it is not always helpful because what it's doing is keeping you stuck in that anger cycle.
I see.
We think it's cathartic. And the real catharsis is finding ways to like check the stories that you're telling yourself in your head about the intent that you think that other person is coming with their anger, because like somebody cuts you off in traffic. Now you're angry and you assumed, well, that person did it on purpose. They were a jerk to me. They wanted me to be inconvenienced, when in reality, they could have just found out their roof fell off their house and they're just rushing home.
Any number of reasons that somebody's having a worse day than you are.
No idea you were even there, right? And we could talk about people driving for forever, but like the assumption of intent is the real kind of like thing that gets us in trouble. So if you can catch yourself in those 90 seconds and go, all right, I'm not going to assume the intent right here. I'm just going to like not go down this path and self-soothe in lots of different ways, like mindfulness, deep breathing, all that kind of stuff. It'll be in the book. Those things help you break out of that cycle that we sometimes get stuck in.
Now, doesn't anger like actually come from like something else where it's like not actually anger, it's like fear and like other emotions that are like coming out as anger, and like anger is like a protective?
I believe it was Master Yoda that said fear leads to anger. Actually, no, fear's the first one. Fear leads to anger, and then anger leads to hate, which leads to the dark side.
Yeah. So anger is one of our, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, it's one of our like basic human emotions. We need anger. So to your point, anger often can be this idea that we are being spurred. It's a healthy reaction that we are having to try to right a wrong. And so it can come from a place of trying to protect us from something we fear or something that we're feeling really sad. So instead, rather than getting sad, we're going to get angry. It can be layered. It also is this like just healthy thing. The goal is not to get rid of anger. It's a healthy thing our bodies do for us to say like, somebody comes in and like punches you in the face, you're gonna have an angry reaction because you're like, I need to right a wrong. It's then the assumptions, like it's that next layer down of like, well, wait, what am I assuming about this righting this wrong? Was this person, did they actually hit me, or were they tripping and they were lost all over the place and they didn't know what was happening? Like, we need to check that anger. But yes, to your point, it's a base emotion. It's a helpful emotion, but it does live in the part of the brain that it's got lots of different parts of the brain, but one of them is the amygdala, which is anger and fear. So they do kind of like hang together. And so it is kind of like a, hey, I'm trying to protect you in a way. And maybe I'm covering up other emotions, especially if you have like chronic anger, because there's like state anger where we get like somebody cuts you off, you get angry. And then there's trait anger where you just might be like an angrier type of person. Like your threshold to get angry is like a lot lower than somebody who's
I'm an emotional angry where like, I'm not gonna lie, this morning, I like cried because I got so frustrated with like a guy at the school, and I didn't feel like I was like sad. I was like mad, but like then I'm like, was I sad? Like, I mean, it didn't last very long, but I'm like, maybe I was. But I feel mad, but then I'm expressing sad. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I'm like, I hate this guy, but my eyes are like.
Yeah, they're intertwined. There's also, we could talk a whole bunch about the layers of what's socially acceptable. So women they tend to be conditioned and taught that we're not supposed to get angry. Like women are perceived as the B word if we tend to get angry or act angry.
She means bitches.
She means bitches, yeah.
She means bitches.
And so there might be a whole bunch of layers of stuff in there where that just might be how you respond. You get angry and then your sadness comes in. That might be you. It also might be like, oh, I need to right this wrong. This is when my anger's coming up, but like I'm not supposed to act on that. I'm supposed to be kind and considerate, and because I'm a woman presenting in this world. And so then you're like, oh, I'm gonna stuff the anger. I'm gonna hold it. Women tend to do that more.
And then meanwhile, you're just festering your resentment,
And
which
then
puts
you
you back in
then you
said angry
explode.
state. Right.
You got it.
So is there a particular like therapy that you believe in the most, like CBT, DBT? Was there one called M something T? I don't know.
Yeah, for like just in general. Or
In general,
for,
like like what's your go-to? Like your client comes in, you're like, hey, this is I'm a CBT therapist. I find this to be the most helpful.
Yeah, beautiful question. So all of my training was in CBT. So I went to the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, and their big, this is jargon, but we call it modality that they taught was cognitive behavioral therapy, so CBT. Along the way, because I very much am what's the evidence telling us? Like I want to do with people, meet them where they're at with whatever the evidence is telling us. And so CBT is my main go-to, and that's where you're looking at your thoughts and how your thoughts are impacting what you're feeling and your beliefs. We could talk about that for hours. I also pull in things like problem solving. So there's the type of therapy that's problem solving therapy, where you're really pulling out like, how do you navigate the issues that you're having in your life? There's other therapies that I pull in, like acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, which is this idea of
Like radical acceptance.
Yeah, yes. And
I'm a genius.
you're on it. Yeah. And it pulls in this idea that, so CBT, and this is the Cliff Notes version, how I think about it, is like you want to reframe your thoughts. Acceptance and commitment therapy often is like you want to recognize that your thoughts are not you. You want to make space between your thoughts. You want to accept them and then make space between them. And then I also pull in like solution-focused therapy, little bits of... So like therapies for PTSD, there's a couple of evidence-based ones like EMDR. I'm not certified in that. I have some amazing colleagues who are, like one of my co-authors, Charity O'Reilly. Things like cognitive processing therapy. There's just like pieces of these things that, because I used to work in primary care. So I worked in a setting where I saw people for very short term. So my whole thing was to get them a clear diagnosis and then to get them started on a treatment where I'm like, okay, we're going to segue you into long-term care. And so I purposely wanted to know what are the, within my realm, within my scope, things that I could do competently, but what are all the evidence-based things that I could pull into my toolbox to then like put in other people's toolboxes. So some people like really like pick a lane, like you might do EMDR and like you just stick with that.
Yeah.
I pull in a lot of CBT and then big chunks of other things where I literally would say to people, I'm not a trauma therapist. I can't do trauma therapy with you, but I am totally capable and on board with you to get you some of those foundational building blocks that they're going to teach you in any trauma therapy. And so, great question. My scope and how I meet people in therapy or coaching is I want to meet that person where they're at. Mm-hmm. So I don't come in with like, here's my prescribed treatment. And there are really good evidence-based, like manualized treatments is the jargon we call them, where you go in for like, you have OCD. There's like cognitive behavioral therapy for OCD. You have a manualized treatment that you might really want that person to go through, and that's going to help 95% of the way. I very much am there's space for that. That's great. I want to know your story and what's going on with you, and then I'm going to offer you potential paths that we could go down and the tools we might use on those paths. And we can stop halfway down a path, and you can be like, Julie, this isn't working. Like, yeah, I see where you're going. This is how, thanks for trying. Like, can we go down a different path now? I very much, my analogy is the client is in the driver's seat and I'm your helpful co-pilot who's always like, hey, did you notice those trees over there? And you could be like, I see those trees. I don't want to go there. We're gonna go over here. And I will be like, okay, well, maybe I'll point them out in the future again, or maybe we don't need to go to those trees. Maybe that's not where we're focusing in our treatment.
Rerouting.
You got it.
Yeah, great analogy. I love it. I love car analogies. I was thinking of, we're going to practice what we preach and tie analogies into everything now.
Love it.
Is, you have somebody shows up where they've either got screws or nails, and you can't hit a screw with a hammer. You must have the screwdriver.
Yep.
So I'm so simple.
Basic.
Yeah, so basic.
Why'd you guys both breathe at me like that? Both of you were like,
I was just taking a deep breath and waiting for what was next. I thought you had something to say.
Oh,
yeah,
you guys were
agreed.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
Maybe you.
No, I do have something for you.
Yeah.
So you do a lot. One, how do you manage it? How do you bring in your self-care? I'm assuming you practice what you're preaching. So like, what's like your like routine? Do you have an amazing morning routine?
How do you not cobbler shoes this whole thing?
Yeah. How do you stay positive?
Yeah. So in the truest sense of I am a human and we can make really good habits and then we like don't stick to habits at times. I am very much a person that like I have some good solid habits. Like I love my sleep. I do exercise. I don't exercise all the time, but like I do, like I'll get into a routine, out of a routine, but I try to do it pretty regularly. I spend time with people that I care about. I literally take moments to decompress. So there will be times, because a lot of what I do is like hold for periods of time, like heavy stuff with people.
Yeah.
Like, you come to therapy and you're like, here's my heavy stuff. And I'll put my hands under yours and be like, okay, I'll hold it with you for now. I had to really come up with a practice to be mindful that like at the end of a session, here's your stuff. Like, maybe I'm helping you figure out how to put it on a shelf over here so you don't have to hold it all the time. But, like, I can't hold it all the time. Like, I would just burn out. Therapists do burn out. Coaches do burn out because you're like, oh, I got to hold all this stuff. It's like, and so my purposeful practice is, like, finding a way to gently put that stuff down for myself. And I love, like, learning. So I'll get into books. I'll get into podcasts, YouTube kinds of stuff. I love TV and movies. I watch almost anything. And
both entertainment and informational.
You love it. Yeah,
okay.
You got it. Like I love all
Reality
of the nerdy
TV?
stuff. So
She's like, not that.
well, so I was gonna
She's
say
like, I'm a doctor.
Well, so certain types of reality TV, and certain like lighter, cheesy stuff. Right now, I just went on a whole binge this week of watching the holiday Bake Off, the something holiday Bake Off. So on Hulu, on all these different platforms, I could piece together most of the seasons. There's like 12 seasons of this show, and I was
Holiday
like,
Bake Off?
don't mind if I do. I watched so much holiday. Yeah, there's 3 judges, and they do a mini bake, and then they get judged on that, and then they do a full bake, and then somebody goes home every week. And this new season that's currently airing is, I think it's the 12th season. They have like, they switched up most seasons. This one they have like a naughty and a nice group. So there's like 12 competitors, but they split them half and half. And like the one who has the best bake in that week, they keep their whole group safe. And so then the other one, that side, they're gonna lose a person that's gonna get sent home. And it adds another little funny layer.
The stakes are high,
right? But it's so soothing and silly. Like, it's a competition show. Like, they're crying, they're like, but it's also me just watching them be funny, watching them create things where I'm like, they'll come up with all these like interesting cakes and desserts where I'm like, I would never eat that, but it looks delicious. And that's a way for me, long journey back, to do self-care. Like, I need to like check out and have moments in my life where I'm like, I'm not worried about these people's mental health. I don't, like, they are hopefully fine and taken care of, but that's not on me. And I can just zone out and enjoy holiday baking where this person just made a giant cake in the shape of the Swiss Alps. Like, great. Looks great. Cut it up. Let's see what it looks like inside.
And taste test it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I would have such a hard time with being a therapist, leaving people's stuff and not worrying about them all the time. Especially if someone came in, you can tell they're really down and they leave and you're like, I hope they're okay. But then I don't know, like, are you someone that, like, your clients can text you? Do they have like, do they reach out to you? Do you set like a hard boundary where it's like, listen, email 8 to 5, I'll get back to you in 24 hours?
Yeah.
Or are you like, if you're in a crisis, like, call me?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have a hard boundary. So I respond to email, and I respond to email pretty darn quick. I don't do crisis work, and I also, though, if there were individuals, it's meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
So if we're working together and there is a scenario where I could see where you're like, you have all the support lines, we come up with like a safety plan where your safety plan might be, okay, when I start to feel unsafe, I'm gonna talk to this person, or I'm gonna play this video game, I'm gonna do this thing. Like, safety plans can look like anything that keeps you safe and isn't harmful. So you don't want your safety plan to be like, I'm gonna go on a drinking bender. Like, right, you want your safety plan to be like, I'm gonna maybe make a cake. I'm gonna distract myself and ride out these waves. So like, could be scenarios where I am available for people. It really is person dependent. I don't do, so there's a great therapy called dialectical behavior therapy, like DBT, and it's mainly for people with borderline personality disorder, and their therapist, that model is that they are available 24/7.
Okay.
So you have group and you have individual therapy, and your therapist like basically is signing up that I am here for you whenever you need, because there are a lot of crises that might come up. I tend to have more of a boundary around that. I think that it's figuring out what, like, people, when they meet you, so this is to this question, I do a goodness of fit when I meet with people, so I give a free half-hour
Consultation?
Yeah, where we're just figuring out, is this going to work? Is this going to make sense? And I've had people come back to me time and time again to be like, you sent me away in such a helpful way where you were like, you have access to this free thing through your work. Why don't you use that? And they were like, that was so genuine that like, I'm going to send you people, because you weren't just like, yeah, I'm going to treat you. I'll be the person. They were like, you didn't have to do that. I'm like, yeah, but why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I
feel like
meet you where you're at?
You can tell me, like, you know more therapists than I do. I feel like a lot of the therapists we meet and talk to are very much like that. Like, if they don't think they're a fit, they'll guide you somewhere where you are a fit.
Oh, we like to talk to the good ones.
But I feel like
it changes the narrative from
that
being
happens
strictly
more in private, I would assume. Because, like, if you go through, like, an insurance-based therapist, sometimes you don't get to pick that person, right? You're just signing up to go in to talk to whoever's available.
Yeah, it depends. So there are websites that you can specifically look, things like psychologytoday.com, therapyden.com, where you can go on and you can search by your insurance. But like the therapists pay to be on those sites, so it's not all inclusive. If you go into your insurance website, you should find all the people you should hopefully still be able to select, but to your point, sometimes there's like one person in your area that takes your insurance, so you really are not able to. What's nice though is something that people hopefully would find beneficial is there's something called Jargon, you don't have to remember this part, PsyPact, but it's a compact of psychologists with 43 of the states in the United States right now that are part of this compact. That means, and I'm part of this, I'm licensed in Pennsylvania as a psychologist. I can see you if you're in any of those 43 states.
Gotcha.
Through telehealth.
Yes. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I guess you could fly around, but if you were going to fly, if everybody's going to fly to Pennsylvania, it would just be under my Pennsylvania license. But yes, and I only do telehealth work. But that's another way that. So sometimes it's you're figuring out like who does your niche thing. So the one of my co-authors who does EMDR, she does. Charity O'Reilly, she does intensives where people come to her and she'll do trauma intensives for like 3 days straight, 5 days straight. Like you go and you stay at this beautiful cottage that she has. And so like that's a niche where people come from all over the world to see her because I don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. And it's such a specialized, important treatment. So long way of answering to give like just a lot of information that's hopefully helpful for people. There are yes, sometimes your insurance limits who you can see, and sometimes there are a lot of people who I don't take insurance in my private practice. There's a lot of mental health clinicians who don't take certain insurances, and I find that people sometimes get mad at the mental health clinician. They're like, well, why don't you take my insurance? And the really frustrating part is I would love to take your insurance. There's so much red tape and there's so much low reimbursement rates that I wouldn't be able to keep the lights on. So like if you're going to be wanting to advocate for change in the system, advocate to change like to Congress, to the government, to the insurance systems to say, hey, you should reimburse these people with a fair rate because people are like, oh, you could see me for whatever amount of money. It's fine. And it's like, well, you got to be able to, that amount of money that I'm seeing you for that hour has to keep my lights on, has to keep the heat going, has to help me renew my license, has to give my CE credits, has to, yeah. And so it isn't as easy as like, oh yeah, I know some really noble people who take like really low paying insurances and they struggle. They're like, I have to see 40 people a week. Do you want your therapist to see you if you're number 38 in that week?
No, because you've done this whole taking on the secondary drum and handing off, or maybe you haven't had the chance to hand it off, and therefore, and this is not a shot against that provider, that clinician, but like, you're compromised.
Yes.
The same way as I get compromised when I'm not at my best and you know, in my own way, and any of us. Same thing, because y'all are people too.
Yep.
Wow, this has been a wealth of information. I feel like there's other stuff. We'll just bring you back on next year when the next book drops.
Well, I was going to say, is there anything you want to say about the book before we wrap up?
Oh, yeah.
You will get through this.
Yeah.
I love that title.
So it's a mental health toolkit. The mission behind this aligns very much with my mission and what I do. And it is a book that you can read chapter by chapter. You could read the whole thing front to cover. You can just
back
read
to front.
Back to
I mean,
front.
not page by page. That's a little.
Yeah.
I would question stuff. And
well, I like that it's broken up into chapters. So if you were just say you were just wanting to look at trauma and PTSD, you could just read this chapter.
You got it.
Because it's positioned as a first aid kit.
Yes.
It literally is. Loneliness, grief.
And where can people buy that? Pretty much on any of the book marketplaces, Amazon, Barnes & Noble?
Yes.
Where do you make the most money when we buy
online, yes.
Where do you get the best commission?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. So my whole thing, and I always say this, is it's in all of the local libraries, mostly around the country. Okay. So this is how I'll leave you all with this, in the idea that like we wrote it as it is a toolkit. So you're like, oh, you know, I need this chapter today. You pull out that chapter. All the chapters are laid out in the same exact way. You get very concise, short paragraphs of this is what that is. So what is a panic disorder? Here's what it actually is, the definition of it is. Because sometimes we go, oh, I'm having a panic disorder. And it's like, well, you're feeling a lot of anxiety, but that's not like actually a panic attack that doesn't meet the criteria to like have panic disorder. But so we like really explain those things, explain what the evidence-based treatments are, what you can do in that moment to help soothe yourself, and then what you would say to a loved one if you feel like they're dealing with that issue, or what you could say to a loved one if you're the one dealing with that issue. So if you're grieving, what you might say to a loved one. You're dealing with chronic pain, what you might say to a loved one, or vice versa. You have a little case example and resources. All the chapters are laid out the same way. And then the other part of this is library. There is a library journal, y'all. I had no idea. So there's a journal for libraries, and it's how they decide what the books are that they're going to put in their catalog each month, year, and you either get no star from the library journal or you get a star. Star means that they deem the book to be an essential read that should be in most libraries around the country, and our book got a star.
Woo!
So,
Literally
good
required
job.
reading over
right?
here.
It's in the library
Wow,
system.
congrats.
I love that.
Yeah, because it is a reference book is how they name it. I'm like, yeah, it totally is. You don't have to read this
you have a
thing
Dewey
front to
Decimal.
back. Yes.
So
right?
cool.
Wow.
And so I just encourage, like, if you're like, yeah, that's great, I can't afford this book, it's in the library. Go get it
in
from
the
the library.
library.
We want this to be useful. And so we really were thrilled when, because that's why we were like, where should you buy it? I was like, you can go to the library.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna buy it as soon as we wrap up today, or at least by the time this episode drops. But
I'm
please
gonna
feel free
take
to hold me
this
accountable.
one
Yeah.
for free.
And then,
Sure.
if you do want it after me, well, no, because I got to keep it. Never mind. We'll figure it out. I picked up on something a couple minutes ago that said you try to exercise, but you want to exercise more. I think we should kick off that exercise experience.
So we
there.
end every show
She knows now because
Oh,
she
you
saw
do?
a photo
with a leg kick.
with a high kick.
Oh, the high kick.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
And that's it. Now we're done.
I know we're done.
You're doing your best, and some days it's a mess, but you're showing up still, so we're very impressed.